Observer Krell had been staring at empty space for 40 years. His job was simple: watch the neutral zone between galactic territories and report anything unusual. In 4 decades he had filed exactly 3 reports. Space, it turned out, was mostly empty and boring. Until today. The alarms screamed through the monitoring station like nothing he had ever heard. Krell jumped from his seat, his 6 fingers fumbling across the control panel. The readings made no sense. A ship was approaching at impossible speeds, velocities that should tear any vessel into atoms. "Computer, identify the vessel," he commanded, his voice shaking. The computer paused. In 40 years, Krell had never seen it hesitate. Classification: human. Origin: planet Earth, Sol system. Warning: previous data may be incorrect. Last assessment logged 80 Earth years ago. Species status: primitive civilization, early space age technology. Krell felt ice flood through his veins. Humans. The species his people had catalogued as primitives barely capable of reaching their own moon. The species still fighting wars with chemical explosives and metal bullets. The species they planned to contact in another 200 years, once they stopped killing each other long enough to listen. That cannot be correct. Run the scan again. Confirmed. Hull signature matches debris recovered from Sol system. Vessel type: military warship. Name detected: UNSC Retribution. Military. They had built a warship. Krell activated every communication frequency the station possessed. Attention, unknown vessel. This is Galactic Council Observer Krell. You are entering restricted space. Please respond with your intentions. We mean you no harm. The Council welcomes peaceful contact with static. Pure empty static. He tried again in 7 different languages, including the primitive Earth broadcasts his people had intercepted decades ago. Nothing. The ship kept coming, burning toward the station like a meteor with purpose. Then, without any warning, it simply appeared. One moment the ship was distant. The next moment it hung in space directly in front of the station, so close that Krell could see the scorch marks on its dark hull. Ships did not do that. Dropping out of faster-than-light travel so precisely should be impossible. The mathematics alone would take supercomputers years to calculate. But there it floated. 5 kilometers of dark metal shaped like a predator's tooth. And covering every surface were weapons. Dozens of them. Hundreds perhaps. Krell recognized some from his military training: missile ports, energy cannons, railgun batteries. Others he could not identify at all, and that terrified him more than anything. Every single weapon was active. Powered up. Ready to fire. "This is Observer Krell of the Galactic Council," he transmitted again, abandoning all protocol. "You are violating 17 different regulations. You must power down your weapons and submit to. We received your messages." The voice cut through his words like a knife through flesh. Female. Human. Cold as the void between stars. "This is Commander Rebecca Hayes of the United Nations Star Command Warship Retribution. We are not here for your protocols, Observer. We are here to speak with your council. Now." Krell struggled to find words. "That is not how this works. There are procedures. We must establish cultural exchange programs, complete medical quarantine, review your technology level." Procedures. The human commander let the word hang in space like a curse. "We know all about your procedures, Observer. We have been watching you for 30 years. Impossible. Humans could not have." His console exploded with incoming data. Alarms shrieked as unauthorized information crashed through every security system the station possessed. His assistants shouted in panic as files opened across every screen. "What are you sending us?" Krell demanded. "That," Hayes said quietly, "is what your procedures cost us." Krell opened the first file with trembling hands. He saw a beautiful world from orbit. Green continents. Blue oceans. Shining domes scattered across the surface where millions of humans lived. The image was labeled New Providence Colony, and dated 18 months ago. He opened the second file. The same world. But now the continents were black. The oceans boiled. The domes shattered like broken glass. Bodies, so many bodies, scattered across burned ground. The population counter read 0. New Providence was first, Hayes said, her voice steady but filled with something ancient and terrible. "We begged for help. We sent messages on every frequency we could find. We transmitted everything about the raiders who attacked us. Their ship designs, their weapons, their patterns. We asked the Great Galactic Council to help us." Krell scrolled through more files. More worlds. More death. Colony after colony reduced to ash and memories. "You sent observers?" Hayes continued. They watched. They filed reports. They held meetings. They explained that the Tarkhan raiders were a regional dispute, and that council rules prevented interference. Do you know how many times we heard that word? Procedures. The council must remain neutral in 17 colonies. Hayes interrupted him. 4,600,247 people. Children observer. We counted every single one. All dead while your council followed procedures. More ships appeared on his sensors. 1, 10, 20. 47 warships materialized in perfect formation around the Retribution. Every weapon on every ship pointed at council territory. You are declaring war, Krelvets whispered. No. For the first time, emotion entered the human commander's voice. We are declaring that we will defend ourselves. We are informing you that the Tarkhans attacked humanity for the last time. We will end this threat. Your council can help us, oppose us, or stay out of our way. Choose. The council will never. We stopped caring what your council will or will not do when the first child died screaming, Hayes said. You have 48 hours. Emergency council session. We will present our case. If you refuse. She paused. You will have 46 more human warships to catalog. The transmission ended. Krelvet stood frozen, staring at the fleet of dark warships hanging in space like sharks waiting to strike. Around him, his staff looked to him for guidance, for wisdom, for orders. Contact the Citadel, he finally managed. Emergency priority. First contact has not proceeded as planned. On his screen the human fleet waited. Patient. Unafraid. Armed. The galaxy, Krelvets realized, had just become far more dangerous. The council chamber had not seen this much chaos in 300 years. Representatives from 12 different species shouted over each other, their translation devices creating a wall of overlapping noise that made coherent thought nearly impossible. At the center of it all stood Commander Rebecca Hayes, perfectly still, watching the panic with cold gray eyes. Military Archon Gentar slammed his forearms against the podium, demanding silence. As the council's chief military advisor, he had seen 1,000 different weapons from 1,000 different worlds. He was not impressed by primitives who had barely escaped their own gravity well. Enough, his voice boomed through the chamber. Let the humans show us these weapons they claim are so fearsome. We shall see what children playing with fire have created. Hayes nodded to Lieutenant David Stone, who activated the holographic display. The first image materialized above the chamber floor, a sleek missile barely 3 meters long. This, Hayes said calmly, is a fusion warhead. It burns at temperatures found in the core of stars. Your shields are designed to deflect energy blasts and absorb kinetic impacts. They are not designed to withstand a sun being born inside them. She pressed a button. The display showed a Tarkhan warship, the same design that had destroyed New Providence. The missile struck. For a fraction of a second, a miniature star blazed where the ship had been. When the light faded, there was nothing. Not debris. Not atoms. Nothing. Gentar felt his secondary heart skip a beat. That is a prohibited weapon under council law. Class 7 restricted technology. We do not follow your laws, Hayes replied simply. Next. The display changed. A massive cannon stretched across the screen, electromagnetic coils glowing with barely contained power. Railgun artillery. Fires magnetically accelerated projectiles at 0.98 light speed. Your energy shields can stop lasers and plasma. They cannot stop a tungsten rod moving at relativistic velocity. The kinetic impact alone liquefies everything within a 300-meter radius. She showed footage. A railgun slug punched through a Tarkhan destroyer's shields as if they did not exist. The ship folded in half like paper, its hull crumpling from the pure physics of the impact. Counselor Velora of the Sisterhood of Peaceful Worlds covered her mouth. This is barbaric. You are not warriors. You are butchers. Hayes turned to face her. You are correct, Counselor. We are butchers. We learned to be when your council left us to die. Would you like to see what else we learned? The next weapon made even Gentar stand up. The display showed something that looked like a cluster of mirrors arranged in a sphere, pulsing with unnatural light. Quantum disruptor, Hayes explained. It destabilizes molecular bonds at the quantum level. Anything caught in the field simply comes apart. Atoms forget how to hold together. We reverse-engineered this from captured Tarkhan technology. It took them 800 years to develop it. It took us 4 months to weaponize it and improve the design. Impossible, Gentar breathed. That technology requires computational power beyond Beyond what primitives should possess? Hayes smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You keep calling us primitives? You keep forgetting what we actually are. We are survivors. She changed the display again. This time it showed something different. Dozens of small ships, barely larger than fighters, swarming around a massive Tarkhan battlecruiser. These are drone missiles. Artificial intelligence guided. Each one carries enough antimatter to crack a moon. They are also equipped with kinetic rams. If the warhead fails, the drone simply crashes into the target at maximum velocity. We do not waste anything in war, Archon. Not even failure. The footage played. The drones swarmed the battlecruiser like insects. Some were shot down. Others detonated against the shields. 3 found weak points in the armor and drove themselves through the hull. The battlecruiser exploded from within, debris spinning out in all directions. Counselor Mayer then of the Unity Collective raised a shaking hand. Commander Hayes, your people have created weapons that violate every convention of civilized warfare. You target crew, not just ships. You use weapons designed to maximize suffering. You do not allow surrender or retreat. What? Why fight with such cruelty? Hayes was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer but somehow more terrible. Let me show you why. The display changed to footage from New Providence. A human child, no more than 6 years old, running through burning streets. A Tarkhan raider vessel hovering overhead. The weapon firing. The child disappearing in a flash of superheated plasma. That was Emma Cooper. She was 5 years old. She liked drawing pictures of spaceships. Hayes's voice remained steady. The Tarkhans did not accept her surrender. They did not allow her to retreat. They showed her no mercy because they were following their cultural combat traditions. She burned to death screaming for her mother. The chamber fell silent. Hayes continued. We sent you this footage 6 months before we built the first fusion warhead. We begged you to intervene. You filed a report. Filed another report. Held committee meetings. Explained that the Tarkhans were a contained regional dispute, and that council laws prevented military intervention in sovereign space. Do you remember what you told us, Counselor Valora? Valora looked down. We said that violence only creates more violence. Yes, you did. So we learned to create violence better than anyone in this galaxy. Because while you debated philosophy, our children burned. Hayes turned to face the entire council. You asked why we fight with such cruelty. We fight the way the galaxy taught us to fight. We fight like people who have nothing left to lose and everything to protect. Gentar studied the human commander with new understanding. You do not fight by the rules of honor. You do not seek glory in battle. No, Hayes agreed. We fight to win. We fight so that no more children burn while bureaucrats debate. We fight because the alternative is extinction. She deactivated the display. These weapons are what we brought to first contact. Not gifts. Not peace offerings. Weapons. Because you had 50 years to stop the Tarkhans with your laws and your procedures and your committees. You failed. We will not. The council chamber remained silent as Hayes walked out, her boots echoing on the marble floor. Gentar looked at the empty space where the weapons had been displayed and spoke quietly to himself. They do not fight like soldiers. They fight like survivors. And that makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The council reconvened in a smaller, more private chamber. No cameras. No public observers. Just the 12 council members and their most trusted advisors. They needed to understand what they were truly dealing with, and some truths were too dangerous for the general population to hear. Ambassador Krell that's activated the historical database he had been reviewing for the past 6 hours. His hand still shook. I have researched human history, he began quietly. I thought I would find a simple story of a young species stumbling toward the stars. Instead, I found nightmares. He displayed images on the screen. Battlefields covered in bodies. Cities reduced to rubble. Mushroom clouds rising over entire populations. In their year 1914, humans fought what they called the First World War. 20 million dead. They used poison gas. They drowned soldiers in mud. They invented machines specifically designed to kill as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. Krelldatz paused. 21 years later, they did it again. The Second World War. 85 million dead. They invented atomic weapons and used them on their own species. Twice. Counselor Valora looked ill. They bombed themselves? Their own people? Not their own people, Krelldatz corrected. Their enemies. Humans divide themselves into nations, religions, ideologies. They have been killing each other for 10,000 years over land, resources, beliefs, and sometimes simply because they could. They have practiced warfare longer than most species in this council have existed. The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. The door opened. Captain James Wright entered, wearing the dark blue uniform of human intelligence. He carried a data pad and nothing else. No weapons. He did not need them. The information he possessed was weapon enough. Captain Wright, Counselor Mayer then said coldly. We did not summon you. No, Wright agreed. But you should have. Because while you have been researching our history, you have been missing the more important question. Not what we were. What we know about you. He activated his data pad. The Council's own communication network appeared on the screen. Private channels, encrypted transmissions, classified documents. We have been listening for 30 years, Wright said calmly. When our probe was destroyed in the outer system 80 years ago, we knew we were not alone. We knew someone was watching us. So we started watching back. Gentar stood abruptly. Impossible. Our encryption is based on mathematical principles we solved 12 years ago, Wright interrupted. You never changed your codes because you assumed primitives could never break them. We captured one of your relay satellites 28 years ago. Since then we have heard everything. He displayed a document. Krellvets recognized it immediately, a Council intelligence report on Tarkhan expansion. This report is 73 years old, Wright continued. It clearly identifies the Tarkhans as an aggressive expansionist threat. It recommends military containment. The recommendation was ignored because 3 council members had trade agreements with Tarkhan mining corporations. Profit over safety. Valora gasped. You cannot possibly. Wright pulled up another file. Council Session 4782 41 years ago. The Heaven species requested military assistance against Tarkhan raiders. Request denied. Official reason. Insufficient evidence of systematic aggression. Actual reason discussed in your private chambers. Intervention would destabilize current power balance and potentially harm council member economic interests. He showed file after file. Trade deals with criminal organizations. Ignored genocide reports. Deliberate inaction on dozens of crises. The council members watched their own corruption displayed in clinical detail. When the Tarkhans attacked New Providence, Wright said, his voice hardening, we sent you everything. Ship designs. Attack patterns. Weapon signatures. Testimony from survivors. We begged for help. Do you know what we found in your classified communications? He displayed an internal council memo. Krellvets read it and felt shame burn through him. Human distress calls present political complication. Recommend observation only. Military intervention would establish precedent for future requests. Maintain neutrality protocols. Wright let the words sink in. You did not help us because helping us might mean you would have to help others. You let 4 million people die because it was politically convenient. We thought you were primitives, Mayer then whispered. We thought you could not understand galactic politics. We understood perfectly, Wright replied. We understood that the Council is not a force for peace. It is a bureaucracy protecting its own power. So we prepared for the only reality that mattered. We were alone. He changed the display to show star maps with glowing points scattered across Council space. The Retribution is not our only ship. We have 47 warships positioned throughout your territory. We have mining operations in 3 asteroid belts you do not monitor. We have weapons manufacturing facilities inside dead moons. We have been building an entire military fleet while you filed reports about us. Gentar studied the map with professional appreciation. You hid ships in our own territory. Under our sensors. Your sensors scan for known technology signatures, Wright explained. We built ours differently. We also knew which areas you monitor closely and which you ignore. You have border patrols. We simply stayed where you were not looking. What is your goal? Valora asked. Conquest? Revenge? Wright shook his head. Survival. When we learned we were not alone in the universe, we had 2 choices. Hope for friendly first contact or prepare for hostile invasion. We chose both. We hoped for peace. We planned for war. And now? Krellvets asked quietly. Now we are giving you one chance to prove you can be better than your history, Wright said. We are not here to destroy the Council. We are here to fix it. To force you to actually protect people instead of just talking about it. Alarms suddenly blared through the Citadel. Emergency broadcasts flooded every channel. Gentar accessed the military network, his face paling. Tarkhan battle fleet detected. 200 ships. Heading directly for this station. He looked up. Warlord Thexmore intercepted our communications. He knows humans are here. He is coming to, as he says, teach the primitives their place. The council members looked at each other in panic. 200 ships. The Citadel's defenses could maybe hold against 50. Wright checked his data pad and smiled coldly. Good. We were hoping they would come. This is not good, Valora shouted. We will all die. No, Wright said. The Tarkans will die. You will watch. And you will learn what humanity does when someone threatens us. He walked toward the door, then paused. Commander Hayes asked me to deliver a message if this happened. She said, tell the council to observe closely. They wanted to see if we were civilized enough to join them. Now they can see what we do to those who slaughter the civilized. The door closed behind him. Krelvetz looked at the tactical display showing 200 Tarkan warships approaching and 47 human ships moving to intercept. They are outnumbered 4-1, he said. Juntar watched the human formation with the eye of a veteran warrior. Numbers mean nothing if you are willing to die. And I do not think humans fear death. I think they fear failure more. The council watched their screens as the two fleets rushed toward each other. The battle for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin. Warlord Thexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death of Hope, and watched the human fleet on his display. 47 ships. Primitives who had barely learned to travel between stars. He had brought 200 warships, each one a masterpiece of Tarkan engineering, each one blessed by blood sacrifices and victory songs. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. They are not retreating, his tactical officer observed, confusion in his voice. Thexmore laughed. Of course not. Primitives do not understand when they are beaten. They think courage can defeat superior numbers. Send a message. Tell them to surrender, and we will only enslave half their worlds instead of all of them. The communications officer tried. No response came from the humans. Instead, the human ships accelerated. Directly toward the Tarkan fleet. Madness, Thexmore muttered. They charged to their deaths. Very well. Fire when in range. Show them what real power looks like. The distance closed rapidly. Both fleets were now broadcasting the engagement on all frequencies. Across the galaxy, 1,000 species watched. The council observed from their citadel. Human families on Earth huddled around screens, praying for their warriors. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when primitives met a real military force. The Tarkan fleet opened fire first. Energy beams and plasma missiles filled the void between the fleets. 3 human ships disappeared immediately, torn apart by concentrated fire. Then the humans fired back. The first fusion warhead struck a Tarkan heavy cruiser. The explosion was so bright that sensors across 3 solar systems registered the flash. When it cleared, the cruiser and 4 ships near it were simply gone. What was that? Thexmore shouted. His science officer checked readings with shaking hands. Star core temperatures, my lord. They weaponized fusion reactions. More missiles followed. Then the railguns opened up. Tungsten rods moving at near-light speed punched through Tarkan shields as if they were made of paper. Ships crumpled. Hulls shattered. Dozens of vessels went dark as the kinetic impacts destroyed their power systems. But the Tarkans had numbers. For every human missile, 10 Tarkan weapons fired back. More human ships died. The destroyer Valiant broke in half. The cruiser Defiance went dark, drifting helplessly. Thexmore smiled. See? Numbers always win. Keep firing. Kill them all. Then something changed. The human fleet split into small groups. They were not retreating. They were spreading out, moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. Small attack ships broke away from the main formation, flying directly at Tarkan vessels at maximum speed. Those are suicide runs, the tactical officer said. They are ramming us. Let them, Thexmore ordered. A ship for a ship is a trade we can afford. But the small ships were not alone. Each one carried dozens of drone missiles. As they closed with their targets, the drones launched. Artificial intelligence-guided weapons swarmed Tarkan ships like angry insects. Point defense systems shot down many. But not all. The drones that survived did not aim for the hulls. They aimed for weapon ports, engine clusters, bridge sections. Precision strikes that crippled rather than destroyed. And when Tarkan crews tried to abandon damaged ships, the drones followed them to the escape pods. They are targeting crews, the tactical officer whispered in horror. Not just ships. They are killing survivors. On the council observation station, Valora covered her mouth. This is against every rule of warfare. You allow enemy survivors to escape. You do not hunt them. Captain Wright stood beside her, watching coldly. Tarkhan raiders did not let 5-year-old Emma Cooper escape. Why should we extend mercy they never showed? The battle became chaos. Human ships that took critical damage did not retreat. They flew directly into Tarkhan formations and self-destructed, taking enemy vessels with them. Captain Thomas Reed's destroyer had lost main power and weapons. His final transmission was simple: for New Providence. He rammed his dead ship into a Tarkhan carrier at full emergency thrust. Both vessels exploded. Debris from the carrier damaged 6 more Tarkhan ships. Thexmore was no longer smiling. They fight like animals. Like cornered beasts. This is not warfare. This is insanity. Then the humans deployed their final weapon. Commander Hayes's ship, the Retribution, was burning. Half her crew dead. Main weapons destroyed. Life support failing. She broadcast on all channels so everyone would hear. Stellar compression device activated. Detonation in 30 seconds. All human ships, clear the kill zone. Thexmore did not understand. What is a stellar compression device? His science officer pulled up the data and went pale. It is a gravity weapon. It creates a temporary black hole. My lord, we must retreat immediately. How temporary? Thexmore demanded. 15 seconds. Enough to trap everything within range. The device detonated at the center of the Tarkhan formation. Space itself seemed to bend. Ships that tried to escape found their engines could not overcome the gravitational pull. 70 Tarkhan vessels were caught in the field, drawn together like metal to a magnet. When the gravity well collapsed, the ships were crushed together into a ball of twisted metal and broken bodies. The remaining Tarkhan fleet broke. Ships that had been advancing now fled in panic. But human vessels pursued, firing fusion missiles at fleeing targets. The quantum disruptors activated, and Tarkhan ships simply came apart at the molecular level, atoms forgetting how to stay together. Thexmore ordered full retreat. Of his 200 ships, only 7 made it to faster-than-light escape velocity. On the human side, 31 ships survived. Barely. Most were damaged. Many crews were dead. The Retribution floated dark and silent, its stellar compression device having consumed the last of its power. But they had won. Across the galaxy, species watched in stunned silence. The humans had been outnumbered 4-1. By all military theory, they should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, they had annihilated the Tarkhan fleet. In his escape pod, Thexmore watched recordings of the battle, trying to understand what had happened. He saw human ships sacrifice themselves. He saw crews fighting even as their vessels died around them. He saw weapons that violated every law of civilized warfare. And he understood. They do not fight for glory, he whispered. They do not fight for honor or conquest. They fight like they have already lost everything and have nothing left but revenge. His second-in-command asked, "What do we do now, my lord?" Thexmore deleted the combat footage from his tactical database. Some truths were too dangerous to share. "We never attack humans again," he said quietly. "And we tell no one how badly they defeated us. Because if other species learn that humans fight this way, they will either flee from them in terror or seek them as allies. Either option makes humanity powerful." He stared at the stars and made a decision that would have horrified his younger self. Open diplomatic channels. Tell the humans we wish to discuss peace terms. The Tarkhan warlord had learned the hardest lesson in the galaxy. Some species should never be cornered. Some species fight differently when protecting their young. And humanity was the most dangerous kind of protective species, the kind willing to die so their children might live. 6 months after the battle, the Galactic Council chamber looked different. New security stations lined the walls. Armed guards from multiple species stood at attention. The galaxy had become a more dangerous place and everyone knew it. The vote was simple. Should humanity be granted membership in the Galactic Council? 12 species would decide. 7 votes needed for approval. Ambassador Krell that stood to speak first. In the past 6 months he had changed. His ceremonial robes now carried a small pin, a human symbol representing the colony of New Providence. A reminder of what happened when bureaucracy replaced action. "I was the first to make contact with humanity," he began. "I watched their warships arrive with weapons armed. I thought them barbaric, uncivilized, dangerous." He paused. "I was correct about one thing. They are dangerous. But I was wrong about everything else." He displayed images on the central screen. Tarkhan raids across the galaxy. Not just human colonies. Dozens of species had suffered attacks over the past century. Thousands of reports filed with the Council. All ignored. The Tarkhan raids have stopped, Krelvets continued. Completely. For the first time in 112 years, no species has reported a Tarkhan attack. Do you know why? He looked around the chamber. Because they fear human retaliation. One battle. One demonstration of human resolve. And a threat that plagued the galaxy for a century simply ended. Counselor Valora stood. They achieved this through violence. Through weapons that violate every convention of civilized warfare. Through tactics that disgust us. Yes, Krelvets agreed. They did. And 4 million humans died while we maintained our civilized standards and did nothing. I ask you, Counselor, which is worse? Their violence or our polite inaction? Valora sat down without answering. 3 minor species had already requested defense treaties with humanity. The Heaven people, who had begged the Council for help 40 years ago and been refused, now had human warships patrolling their borders. The raids that had killed millions of Heavens over decades had stopped within a week. Counselor Merthen spoke next. We face a difficult choice. Humanity has demonstrated military power that rivals our greatest warriors. But they have also shown willingness to break every law we hold sacred. If we grant them membership, we legitimize their methods. We tell the galaxy that might makes right. And if we refuse them? Jintar asked, standing from his seat. What then? They have proven they do not need our permission to act. They will defend themselves and anyone who asks for their protection. The only question is whether we stand with them or against them. The military Archon had spent months studying human combat tactics. He had spoken with survivors of the Tarkhan battle. He had reviewed every piece of footage from the engagement. His conclusion was simple and terrifying. Humanity had been holding back. The weapons they showed were not their best. They were simply the ones they were willing to reveal. I recommend approval, Jintar said. Not because I like humans. Not because I approve of their methods. But because they are the strongest military force in known space, and they have shown restraint when they could have shown conquest. That is the definition of civilization, power combined with choice. The chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed. Others shouted about principles and laws. The debate raged for an hour. Then the doors opened. Admiral Rebecca Hayes entered. She had been promoted after the battle. The Retribution had been rebuilt. Her crew, reduced to 30% strength, had been honored as heroes on Earth. She walked to the center of the chamber and waited for silence. Counselors, she began. I do not come to beg for membership. I do not come to threaten or intimidate. I come to offer you a choice. She activated a holographic display showing human ships, human weapons, human technology. This is what we built in the dark. Alone. Afraid. Desperate. We created weapons of war because we had to. Because you left us no choice. She paused. But war is not all we know. The display changed. It showed human hospitals treating wounded Heaven refugees. Human engineers repairing damage on worlds the Tarkhans had attacked. Human teachers sharing technology with species who asked for help. We offer you partnership, Hayes continued. Equal partnership. Not as primitives grateful for scraps. Not as subordinates following your rules. As equals who bring our own strength to the table. We will share our technology. We will defend council members from external threats. We will follow reasonable laws and reasonable protocols. And if we refuse? Valora asked quietly. Hayes met her eyes. Then we continue as we are. We defend ourselves. We protect those who ask for our help. We exist outside your council, doing the work you should have been doing all along. The only difference is you will have no voice in how we do it. The vote was called. Electronic tallies appeared as each counselor made their choice. Krelvets voted yes immediately. Jintar followed. 3 other species whose territories bordered Tarkhan space voted yes. They had lived with the threat for generations and watched humans end it in a single afternoon. Valora hesitated, then voted yes. I do not like your methods, she said to Hayes. But I cannot deny your results. Merthen voted no. 2 others joined him. They cited violations of law, concerns about precedent, fears about militarization. The final tally appeared, 7 votes for approval, 5 against. Humanity was now a member of the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in cheers and protests. Hayes simply nodded and left without ceremony. She had work to do. Later, Admiral Hayes stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Retribution, watching Earth turn slowly below. Blue oceans. Green continents. 7 billion people living their lives, most never knowing how close they had come to extinction. Lieutenant David Stone approached. Admiral, do you regret the violence? All those people we killed. Hayes was quiet for a long moment, watching her homeworld. I regret that it was necessary, she finally said. I regret that the Council forced us to become what we became. I regret every human life lost while they debated and filed reports. She turned to face Stone. But I do not regret protecting our people. That is what humans do. We protect our own no matter the cost. The Council learned that lesson in blood. I hope they remember it. Far away in Tarkon space, Warlord Thexmore sat in his fortress and watched the Council vote on every available screen. When humanity was accepted, he nodded slowly. Open diplomatic channels, he ordered his second-in-command. Full embassy. Trade negotiations. Defense treaties. My lord, we are warriors. We do not negotiate with prey. Thexmore pulled up footage of the battle one more time. The fusion missiles. The ramming attacks. The stellar compression device. The absolute refusal to surrender. They are not prey, he said quietly. They are apex predators who convinced everyone they were harmless. We made the mistake of believing it. We will not make that mistake again. He composed a message to the human government. Simple. Direct. The Tarkon hegemony requests formal peace treaty. All raids on human territory and human-protected worlds to cease immediately. Permanent non-aggression pact. We acknowledge humanity as sovereign power. The response came back within an hour. Accepted. But know this, if you ever attack another defenseless colony of any species, human ships will come for you. We remember. We always remember. Thexmore read the message and smiled without humor. Humans did not forgive. They did not forget. But they would honor peace if it was genuinely offered. He could work with that. Across the galaxy the news spread. Humanity had arrived. Not with peaceful greetings and scientific curiosity. Not with trade goods and cultural exchange. They had arrived with weapons armed and demands delivered. And the galaxy would never be the same. Species that had suffered under Council inaction for centuries now looked to humanity for protection. Young warriors studied human tactics. Diplomats analyzed human negotiation strategies. Scientists requested access to human technology. The age of the Galactic Council's unchallenged authority was over. The age of humanity had begun. And every species in the galaxy now understood a simple truth. You do not threaten a species that weaponizes desperation. You do not attack a species that protects its children with such absolute determination. You do not corner a species that would rather die fighting than live in fear. You make allies of them. You make peace with them. You learn from them. Or you disappear like the Tarkon fleet, a warning written in debris and silence. Humanity had taught the galaxy its first and most important lesson. We are here, we are armed, and we will never again wait for permission to survive.